Hello, everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about the Eureka Server service registration and service discovery workflow. And after that, we will write a very simple Eureka Server, how to implement the registration and discovery. Okay, let's go first. The workflow of the service registration and discovery. Okay, here in this diagram, we have three components. Eureka Server, provider, and consumer. Okay, when our provider service restart, we will register our service information into a Eureka Server. For example, our service name is provider service, and our URL is localhost 7, and we do have another instance of provider services, and the port is 6. Okay, when the provider restart, we will register itself to Eureka Server. And from consumer side, when consumer want to invoke the provider service, first it will query the provider service instance from Eureka Server, and if got the provider service instance, it will invoke our provider services. This is a very simple workflow. Okay, let's go to our code. Here I define a project, my Spring Cloud. We have 4 components. Let's go one by one. First is our Eureka Server. In Eureka Server, it's a Spring Boot application. In this application, we do have a map. This map will hold the service instance. For example, the map key is service name, like this, service A, for example, and it has a list here, service information. Let's go to what is the service information. Service information define the provider services IP and port, okay, which will be used by consumer eventually. Okay, so the construction is like this. Service A has list, the port is 1000, and another instance is port is 2000. Sorry, 20,000. Okay, and we restart our Eureka Server, and we defined another controller. We expose our API to services which used to registration and discovery. For example, first, registrate. When as you can see in this diagram, when provider services restart, we will register the service instance into Eureka Server. It contains the IP and host. Okay, here in register API, we do have 3 parameters. First is service name. For example, provide A, provide B. Another parameter is IP, which is the IP and the port. Okay, here in this API, we just put the server information into our map, which defined in the runner in the application. Here it's a static. Okay, so our Eureka can hold the service information into the map. Okay, this is registrator. And we have another two API. First, let's buy this one. First, we can list all the services which are registered in our Eureka. So this is just enough to list all the service name. Another one is listed by service name, because as we can see in this diagram, we have 2 instances of provider services. Which first one is 7 and second one is 6. So here we pass a parameter is service name, and we iterated our map, our list, and return a list to client. Okay, so this is Eureka Server. Here also we define in our application properties, we define the Eureka Server port, which is 9. Okay, this is Eureka Server, and let's go to the provider services. Provider services is also a Spring Boot application. So in this application, we have a controller. First, let's go to the application properties. In application properties, we have let's align with the same. Okay. So in this application properties, we define our provider service information. First is port and our application name. And after that, because we have to register our service into Eureka, so we have to define the Eureka service information. For example, server address is 9, which we define here. Eureka server is localhost 9. And we also given the current provider service name, which is provider services. Okay. And we have we expose another API in our provider services. A very simple API. Hello and print some hello world in provider. This is provider services. And let's go to the consumer service. Consumer service is also a Spring Boot application. We can ignore this one. And we also define our consumer information, the port and the application name. Also, we define the Eureka server address and its service name. And in the consumer controller, we define another hello API here. In this method, we will get the provider service from discovery, from Eureka discovery client. And after that, we just use REST template to send a HTTP request to our provider. So how does this works? Okay, so the core component is the Spring Cloud Discovery. In this discovery, let's first go to the Spring Factories, because as we all know, Java Spring Boot is using the Java SPI to load all the configuration. Okay, so here we define two configuration. First is service registration out configuration, and second one is service discovery out configuration. Let's go to the registration first. This one. In service registration auto configuration, we define some beans here. First is discovery properties. Discovery properties nothing but a configuration defined in properties. For example, provider service, we have defined the service address and services. The same happened in consumer as well. Right? Okay, and let's go to discovery properties. We have service address, service, IP, and port. Okay, this is discovery properties. And second one is registration, my registration. So in my registration, you also it is implement the Spring Cloud registration. So this interface was defined in Spring Cloud. We just implemented in this my registration. We have the override some method. For example, get host. The host is coming from discovery properties because my registration holds the discovery properties instance. Okay, and service ID is the service and the port. Okay, this is my registration. And third one is my service registration. My service registration is nothing but to register our service into the Eureka. It also implements a Spring Cloud registry. Okay, we have register and deregister. Okay, so let's go to the register function. In this method, we can get the service name which defined in application properties. We got the service name. For example, it's provider A, and IP maybe it's host, localhost. The port, what is the port? Port we define in 7. In provided 7. Okay, and here we just call our API to our Eureka server to register our application, to register our service. The service already defined. This register API was defined in Eureka, right? And we given the service name, IP, and port. Okay, this is for registration. For deregistration, because sometimes maybe our instance is down or cannot work, we can do deregistration. Here we also send the deregister API to Eureka server. It will remove the registration. For example, let's go. Sorry, this one. In deregister, we just remove the service name by our IP and port. Okay, this is the third one, and last one is auto service registration. Auto service registration, it extends abstract auto service registration, which is also defined in Spring Cloud. In this abstract auto service registration, it has a method which is start, and this method was invoked by Spring internally, so we can leave it. And in this method, we can see there is a method which is register. Okay, register is, you can see register will call the service registry dot register, and it will go to our my service registration, which is this one, my service registration. Okay, so you can see how it works. Auto service registration will call registry to do registration, and in our my service registration implement service registry, and it will call the register. So this is how the registration works and deregistration works. Okay, this is the registration part, and after that let's go to discovery, because we can see discovery also defined in service discovery auto configuration is also defined in Spring factories, so it will be loaded by Spring as well. So here we also define bin discovery properties, and we have another bin is my discovery client. Let's go in. So my discovery client implement Spring Cloud discovery client. In this client, it has get instance method and get service instance. Okay, let's go one by one. So let's go to our my discovery client. So in my services, it will get all the services defined in registered in Eureka server. So it will call this API, this service name. Okay, so that means our provider A will be loaded and return. And let's go to the get instance method. Get instance method receive a parameter is service name. Service name, for example, it's provider A, and it will also call the Eureka server listed by service name and given the parameter as service name as provider A, for example. And here it will list all the service A instance and return to consumer. Okay, so you can see in consumer, you can see here, get instance, given the service name, and return a service instance list. Okay, because here I only for test purpose I got the first one, and we do the REST template get object, which we'll call the provider service. Okay, so this is all the implementation of the registration and discovery. Let's restart it and try. So first we start a Eureka server. Okay, server is up, and now we are going to, after a service Eureka server restart, we can try to get a service name. So because provider service doesn't start up, so in Eureka server there is no service registry. Okay, now we're going to restart provider service. So from the logs, you can see service provider service register success, and the IP is 777. Okay, and then let's go to the browser to see if it's registered success. So our provider service register success. Okay, and we also can try this way to get the instance information. This service by service name, and given the service name as provider service. So the IP is here, and the port is here, and also we can we can modify the. We can start another new provider service. That means 2 instances here. Okay, here you can see service provider service reaches success. IP is 6. Okay, and then let's refresh this page. So here we have 2 instances. First is 7, and the second is 6. Okay, we have bring up our Eureka server and provider service. So let's start our consumer. Consumer port is 5. You can find these logs. Consumer service reaches the success as well. Okay, so let's see. So in Eureka service we have consumer service and provider service. Now we're going to call this API consumer hello API. In consumer hello API, it will get an instance from Eureka server by my discovery client, and send HTTP call to provider service hello. Okay. So hello world in provider. This is consumer hello. Let's go to the provider hello. So hello world in provider. See, this is that means our Eureka registration discovering in Eureka is success. Okay, so this is today's video to share the how to implement our very simple Eureka server for registration and discovery. Thanks.